starting. Ublumi atitu atira Reneltta Arluk. So good afternoon, my name is Reneltta Arluk. And I just want to say how grateful I am to be on the territory of the Mi'kma'ki ancestral lands that have been stewarded so well by the Mi'kmaq and the Maliseet peoples who steward the land, the water, and the air. And I am grateful to be a visitor and to say Masichon Kuyanik to Walrus for inviting me here today. I'm going to offer a sharing on perspective. Elder Sykes Powderface, who passed away this year, is a very recognized elder from Stoney Nakoda Nation in Treaty 7 territory. And he was known as the chief negotiator for the First Nation chiefs when they were doing the constitutional consultations. And he shared this perspective with me one day about a forest. So if we look at the forest and we imagine the forest, we see tall trees with healthy bark and big green branches that carry acorns or pine cones. And that provides big shade for the forest that we walk through. And we imagine that when we see a forest. And when we walk along the path, we see moss and we see plants and flowers and bushes. And we walk along and we think, oh, how wonderful that shade that those giant trees provide. But, you know, us being able-bodied, biased people, and us seeing what we see, if we were to lift the bed of that forest, we would see fibrous, intertwined, interconnected roots from those plants, bushes, and flowers that would take over the entire forest bed. And what you would see within all of those fibrous roots, what you would recognize is that the reason why those tall trees can stand so tall and provide so much shade, it is because of those little plants and flowers and bushes are sustaining their height. And so when we start envisioning forests with the shade, we start thinking, oh, how fortunate are those flowers and bushes and plants. But then with the roots, we recognize that that forest is actually quite reciprocal. That without those little plants and those little bushes and those little flowers, those trees would fall. We can do a direct correlation of that to arts organizations and institutions, and those plants and flowers and bushes are our stories, our cultures, and our communities. And that those big trees, those big art institutions and organizations would have nothing to hold them up if it wasn't for the bed of roots that sustained them. When we think about the arts in that way, we start thinking about our role as artists and art leaders. And we start thinking more about sustainability, sovereignty, self-determination, and consent. You can't make a tree out of a plant, a bush, or a flower. And you can't make a plant, bush, or a flower into a tree. And so when we think about our stories and our communities and our cultures, then what we're looking at is we're looking at a way forward together. And if we lean hard into our actual roles, then the ability to create strength within the arts becomes really, really clear. And I think about what is our role in the environment as artists and art leaders. Are we the bee, the pollinator that goes around and pollinates the flowers and the plants? Are we the morsel that is in the bark that gets munched on by the woodpecker? Or are we the chainsaw that cuts down the tree to create very exciting art in the moment, but doesn't allow sustainability of the ecosystem as a whole. And so, I'm not taking the 7 minutes, but that was something that really came to me when I was thinking about our role going forward, is that we've really worked very hard to be individuals, sustaining ourselves as individuals, but we haven't really stepped back to look beneath our feet and recognize how are we going to sustain ourselves like a forest. Masicho, kuyanik.